Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinnavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Angushthamatrah Purushottaratma
Angushthamatrah Purushottaratma
Sada Jananam Hridaye Sannivishtaha
Sada Jananam Hridaye Sannivishtaha
Hrida Manisha Manasabhikliptaha
Hrida Manisha Manasabhikliptaha
Ya etad viduramritaste bhavanti
Ya etad viduramritaste bhavanti.
Something similar we have encountered earlier. That's why I felt we have done that. Somewhere, maybe in Kathopanishad, that Angushta Matra comes. Yeah, that's why I felt we had done that. It was expressing a similar thing. So let us see the meaning. Angushta Matra Purushaha. A thumb-sized Purusha, literally. Matra here means measure. Purusha means Bhagavan, that which is the which expresses the completeness, an expression of completeness of everything. The one who sustains everything, the one who is free of everything that's going to be told. And this Purusha, Sarvan Purayati, that which completes everything, that which completely sustains everything, that which is the essence, the truth of everything. That Bhagavan, if we look where, Angushta Matraha, where is this, how big is this Bhagavan? The size of the thumb, And before one gets deflated, this is, like this whole Bhagavan who is the Karta Bhokta of the universe, who is the, even while doing, who is Akarta, who is the cause of the universe, who is everything. He is the as though cause. And the effect also is non-separate from this Bhagavan. After saying all this, where is this Purusha? Thumb-sized Purusha. But here it is a way to understand it as the truth of oneself. So Madhye Atmani, how does it put it? Purushaha Antaratma. There it was Madhye Atmani Tishtati. Angushtamatra Purushaha, wide Kathopanishad that we are doing. Angushtamatra Purushaha Madhye Atmani Tishtati Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya Natato Vijugupsate Etad Vaitat. That was Etat Vaitat. Here, Angushtamatra Purushaha, Antaratma, immediately. That Antaratma word takes away the deflation caused by seeing the Purusha as, little fellow here. Antaratma, the truth of everyone, the innermost I, that is the Purusha. Jananam Hridaye, very straightforward verse, and also we can finish this quickly because we have taken a lot of time over the Kathopanishad verses of the similar nature. So Jananam Hridaye, Janaha means people. So Jananam, sixth case, of all the people. Hridaye, in the heart. Sannivishtaha, has put a sleeping bag and become cozy, is there to stay. Purusha has put up a residence in the hearts of all the people. So what is the world's population? 7 billion? Okay. So 7 billion little thumb-sized Purushas in every heart. Huh? No? How many Purushas? So if it's one thumb-sized Purusha, then it is splintered into minuscule pieces in every heart? No. sizeless Purusha. That which is not, what is that? That which is not enveloped by space. That which is not enveloped by space. Space is not a demarcator of this Purusha. In fact, the Purusha is the one out of which space has come. And one name for Bhagavan is Digambara. Dik Ambaram Yasya. The directions which are the Upalakshana for space. Upalakshana means which are the stand-in, an example of space. How are you going to measure space? Through the direction. So all the directions, 8, 4 cardinal, 4 non-cardinal, up and down, 10 directions are something he wears. Those are his clothes. That means what? The wielder of space. You wear the clothes. The clothes don't wear you. Thank God. Otherwise, here you are trying to change your clothes. The other clothes says, no, I'm not coming off. You have to wear me and bear me for one more day. No, but it's enough. No, I'm very cozy and I'm hanging on your shoulders. I'm not coming off. Then it will be a fix. You can't even go to work. So thankfully that's not the case. You are the one you can throw off the clothes and wear new clothes. Like this, Bhagavan is the master of all the directions, the master of space. And again, space is Bhagavan, Bhagavan is not space. So therefore, the manifestation of Bhagavan in everything is complete and whole. It's not that there is more Bhagavan in one person and less Bhagavan in the other person. We don't have a gradation of the presence. But we do have another kind of a gradation. Sometimes people might say that there is more Bhagavan in such and such a person. That means that their antahkarana has been purified and cleansed of the ragadveshas. The same Bhagavan, is being seen more clearly. Just like you have a pot of clear water and you put it in the sun, under the sun. And you have a pot of murky water and put that another pot also under the sun. And the sunshine being one and the same is reflected in both the pots. But in the murky pot, you will see a murky sun. In the clear pot, you will see a clear sun. The problem is not in the sun. The problem is in the reflecting medium, which is the buddhi, the antahkarana, the inner instrument, which has a number of its own agendas and its own buddhi and its own little biases, its own subjectivity. So therefore, it is occluding the presence of this Purusha. That's all the difference. That is the gradation, if there is one. Otherwise, there is no gradation. Same thumb. In fact, you can take a tape and measure the Purusha in each heart. It will always be the same size. There is no difference. And this is a metaphorical way of saying that this thumb-sized Bhagavan is there in every heart. The question comes, why thumb size? Why not say at least 1 foot? If I am 5 feet so and so inches, then at least 1 foot, 1/5 should be Bhagavan. 1/6 should be Bhagavan. But this thumb is very aruchi, it creates. Aruchi means it's a tasteless expression. Why thumb size? Well, for 2 reasons. When you make a fist, right? And that is the size of the heart. And generally, to measure the heart, you put the thumb inside and make a fist. And that is the size of the heart. And that which is within is so it's like that is one meaning, is that size of the heart which is measured by keeping the thumb in the fist and making a fist over the thumb. That which is that size of Bhagavan, that is the truth of the heart, is Bhagavan. That is one meaning. The second meaning, however, is much more interesting and much more pertinent for us, which is that, in a way, coming to this knowledge, thank God the Bhagavan is only thumb size. Yeah, because if Bhagavan was everything, then what about this Ahankara? Ahankara will say shoo, shoo and sweep Bhagavan, try to sweep Bhagavan away. Even this thumb-sized fellow, Bhagavan cannot be tolerated by the Ahankara. The Ahankara wants to make itself a carve for itself a limited and a unique entity, and it thinks of itself as the master of the body, mind, sense complex. There's no room for anything else. So therefore, for the purposes of upasana, meditation, contemplation, we introduce Bhagavan slowly. Thumb size, heart size. Then the whole heart is occupied by Bhagavan. When the Ahankara is ready to let go. So the Shruti doesn't want to frighten the person. Already one feels split that there are two entities living there. Bhagavan and we'll call the other one Gabhavan, non-Bhagavan. And so therefore there are already one is feeling split. Because anything that one wants to do and one is badly wanting to do happens to be illegal. This is what happens. Happens to be against the law, including speeding. It's a 30-mile zone, you want to go 60 miles, but it's against the law. You cannot do that. And then there are certain other things you want to have, you have to have, but you happen to be allergic to. And in ancient medicine, we say that there is, that all the things one craves for, one must not have because that is the completely opposite of what the body needs. You'll find that in Ayurveda there is these three humors, which are not very humorous, discussed. Humor means doshas, like certain things that can go out of balance. Vata, the principle of air, air principle. Dry, cold, and light. Those are its qualities. Pitta, kind of reddish, neither light nor heavy, medium, and neither dry nor too wet. And then Kapha, wet, like a lead balloon hanging, These are the three things. We need all three things for the body to function. But they frequently go out of balance. So a Vata predominant personality, like someone for whom Vata is, they have an interesting word, deranged. So when there is Vata derangement, what happens? The person, wants only these, like the person will want to eat banana chips. Dry, cold. Think about this, airy. Cannot digest. Person wants to eat all popcorn. Very bad. Yeah. And when the kapha is out of whack, completely deranged, the person wants to eat heavy chocolate cakes and, heavy things, very, very heavy things. Oily things, heavy things. I get a horrible craving for it. And after that, the food will sit and get fossilized in the stomach, but not digested. This is what happens. So therefore, the thumb-sized Bhagavan to even, have, it has to be introduced slowly. It has to seek approval. Until the person is ready, the person has to seek approval of the Ahankara. This is how the seeking approval will look like. Seeking permission from the Ahankara to let Bhagavan inside. Actually, Bhagavan is what upholding the Ahankara also. But since everybody is a split, garden variety split personality, this is what the conversation will look like. So, here is the Sakshi, the witness, talking to the Ahankara. So, you've been having a hard time lately. No, not really. No, I admit it. I think you've been having a hard time lately. Yes, I have been beaten around a little bit, that's right. I have been subject to the slings and arrows of fortune, outrageous and otherwise. Yes, I'm having a difficult time. Yes, everybody seems to be getting ahead of me. Yes, I'm not getting invited to many parties. Yes, nobody is acknowledging me. Yes, I'm having a hard time. They say that prayer is very good and Vedanta is very good. So I think you should incorporate a little bit of that. No. Bad idea. Don't have the time for it also. Well, listen, you can just have a little meditation. You can just sort of, when you're having a hard time, you have to seek Bhagavan. Where? Right here. Right there? Yeah. Right here in the heart is Bhagavan. How big? Don't worry, only thumb-sized. Then the ahankara calms down. Oh, okay. The whole of the body, mind, sense complex for me, and thumb-sized one little fellow is sitting there, it doesn't matter. One day I will just go in the morning and go like this. That's okay. That's all the thing is. So to make it little less intimidating, the second reason. The third reason also is to say that the heart is the center of everything. We're not talking of the physical heart. We're talking of the spiritual heart, so to speak. The heart, according to Ayurveda and even ancient Chinese medicine, the heart is where the mind sits. Mind has to sink into the heart for a certain level of balance. So that way, the truth of this heart, in fact, we use the word heart like that, the heart of the matter. Let's get to the heart of the matter. It's not that there is some beating heart in the matter, but we are talking of a metaphorical heart. Here also we are talking of a metaphorical heart that is the center of this very being. Exactly in the same place that the ahankara is cognized, Bhagavan is also cognized. And if Bhagavan himself, poor fellow, is thumb-sized, ahankara is also a little chota fellow. We don't have to make him bigger than it is. This is the idea. So sarvesham jananam hridaye sannivishtaha samyak nivishtaha, carefully and well ensconced, well placed is this small baby Bhagavan. Why baby Bhagavan? Because the mind itself is a small, place where the Bhagavan is recognized. So just like when you have 20 pots of water in the sun, each one is, showing a little angushtamatra reflection, thumb-size reflection in small pots. So this jiva is small, compared to Bhagavan. So in the truth of this jiva is that it is able to see this Bhagavan as the very truth of its own body, mind, sense complex. So sarvesham hridi means in the center, is the center of hridaye or hriday. See, the word hridaya, which means heart, has two formations. Hrit, which is a takaranta, and hridayaha, which is a akaranta. So hridaye, you can say, or hridi. Seventh case, both are seventh case. So hridi sannivishtaha, hridaye sannivishtaha, same thing. And hridaye sannivishtaha. So the same Bhagavan is this being who is the truth of everyone, is there in the heart of all, all creatures. This limitless Bhagavan is the truth of all living beings, all sentient beings, is the indweller. Sannivishtaha means the indweller. And then let's skip the third line for the time being and go to the last line. Yaha etad viduhu, the one who knows this. The one who knows this, what happens to them? Amritaha te bhavanti. Amritas te bhavanti. Yaha etad viduhu. Those who know this, what happens to them? Amritaha bhavanti. They become limitless. Oh, before they were limited? Now they become limitless? No. Already limitless. They were ignorant of their limitlessness. They are awakened to their limitlessness, and they now say, I know I am limitless. Viduhu, the emphasis is on vid, to know. This knowing, meaning that the Upanishad is sparing no pages, no words to reiterate and emphasize the fact that this is not a matter for experiencing. It's only through the knowing that this can happen. We hear of so many things where the grace of Bhagavan Even Arjuna had that grace. In the 11th chapter. What is the 11th chapter called? Vishwarupa Darshana. He begins the 11th chapter, I have this desire to see you. I have this desire to experience Bhagavan. I want to see all of you. Bhagavan Krishna says, are you sure? Yes, yes, yes. Here, wear some Google 3D glasses. He gives him Google Glass. Oh, he says, Dadami te divya chakshuhu. He says that. I give you with these eyes, which are only kind of limited, Even you may have a 20/20 vision, but it will not be able to make you see 360. So you need to upgrade your eyesight. And I'm going to give you a new pair of, glasses, a new pair of eyes, new vision, to be able to see this and take this all in, Now there is one minister of science in India. He's been making history because he really believes in ancient culture and everything. So first there was an Indian Scientific Congress a few months ago, and there he made the claim that there were planes flying around in ancient India. And today also he made some similar claim that we knew how to do plastic surgery, we knew how to wield the scalpel long before the Western people did. Oh, we had inoculation against smallpox. This is something he has come out with. So in the same vein. In the same vein we can say we also had Google glasses. The first pair was given by Bhagavan Shri Krishna to Arjuna to be able to see his Vishwarupa. Anyhow, that's an aside. So he says, Dadami te divya chakshuhu, I'm going to give you a new pair of eyes through which you can see me. All right, Google Glass was given, Google Glass was worn, and then, Krishna had the time of his life because he was just being himself. And Arjuna was just frightened out of his wits. He was just crying, looking for Kunti. Mummy, where are you? He was, from, what is that, he is usually called Bharatarshabha, the bull among the clan of the Bharatas. He became Kaunteya, a mere mummy's boy. He started to cry for his mummy because he just said, oh my God, what is this? He saw Drona and, what's that other one, the main fellow, Duryodhana, Drona, all these people entering, Tvarita, quickly, as though they couldn't wait. They were the Bhagavan's mouth was like the most perfect vacuum cleaner. It was vacuuming all these fellows. And they were all saying, Trahimam, Pahimam, still they were being vacuumed. It was a fire vacuum, like the new steam cleaners, This just burns everything in its place, and it is vacuum action of the mouth of the Lord. And all these fellows, were just suctioned up. And some of them stuck between the spaces in his teeth. And think of how big a floss you will need to remove these fellows. Yeah, I'm not making this up. Read the 11th chapter. All this is there. Sometimes I do make things up. But not in this instance. So they were all stuck between the teeth of the Lord. They were all, swinging and clinging to their dear life. That was happening. And then he saw all these other furious forms, all the people who had transgressed dharma, who had been baddies, were being, what's the word for it, biffed by the Bhagavan. So you couldn't see where Bhagavan was. Bhagavan was everywhere. He was in the form of Rudra, he was in the form of Mahavishnu, he was in the form of Brahmaji. Everything, creation, death, destruction, sustenance, maintenance was going on simultaneously. And he just, he said, he issued an apology. He said, I didn't know this was your real form. And many times when we played, I pulled your hair I hid your peacock feathers, and I hid your flute because I was annoyed with you. And ahara nidra shayyasana ashaneshu, in sleeping, eating together, and doing so many things, playing, I have transgressed so many boundaries. Please forgive me. Kshamasva, kshamasva, he says. And then he says, I can't handle this. Kunti is nowhere to be found. I can't even go sit in her lap. You come back to your normal form, please. Come back to your normal form. And then Kiritinam, Chakrinam, Gadinam, Drishtva, having seen the one who is having the crown, who is having the flute, who is having the Gada, Shankha and Chakra, he feels happy again. But this experience, even though it was an experience, he saw everything, did not mark the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because 6 more chapters are remaining after this. 7 more chapters are remaining. Otherwise, it should have, if it was all about an experience, it should have ended with the 11th chapter. Should have ended. But it didn't end. Why? Because Arjuna had a lot of unanswered questions. And as though the 11th chapter never happened, he asks again in the 12th chapter. Who are the ones who worship you? Bhaktanam te paryupasate. Who is the tesham ke yogavittamaha? Who is the best worshipper of you? What kind of worship? These are the forms of worship. Nirgunam, sagunam, all these things, and karma yoga. Who are the best forms of worshippers? What a question to ask after this, if this experience was enough for him to be quote-unquote enlightened, to have self-knowledge, then there need not have been other chapters. And he should not have had any more questions, because when all the questions are gone, that is what is self-knowledge. There is nothing more to seek, there is nothing more to ask, there is nothing more to ponder. This is what it is. Yeah. So the questions are gone. And if the questions are gone, then there is nothing to pursue. But here, often, especially in modern Vedanta, the mistake is made. It's a frequent mistake to go for the experiences. Yeah. There's always this penchant for experiences. And it's okay to have experiences, but really speaking, the focus should be on the knowledge. If the knowledge is overpowered by the experience, then that experience is no good. No good at all. Knowledge cannot be overpowered by the experience. The experience also begs knowledge at the end, because once you have an experience, I had this spiritual experience, everything was one and I was not angry at all. Okay, that's wonderful. Especially for others around you, it's wonderful. And then what? What does it mean? You have to see, you have to look into that. When you ask the question, what does this experience mean? You have left the realm of experience and come into the realm of knowledge. So therefore, this is what the Upanishad is trying to tell. Ye viduhu. The ones who know. Not ye anubhuyanti. Not the ones that experience this. The ones who know this without a doubt, without any place for error. No doubt, no error. Whose knowledge is crystal clear. No shadows in this knowledge. And so such a person is called Amritaha. Such people are called Amritaha. And ye viduhu. These people who know this, what do they know? That sarvesham jananam hridi Bhagavan Purushaha Purnaha Sannivishtaha. That this Bhagavan is myself alone, which is residing as the indweller of all beings. This is what is to know, and this is the only thing that is there to know for me to be free of the notions of bondage. When the notion of bondage is not known as a notion, it becomes an ocean of bondage. That's what happens. Very small difference between notion and ocean, correct? Yeah. But then if you don't see it as a notion, very quickly it becomes an ocean. Why? Because you cried so much. That's why. So therefore, ye viduhu. So goes back to the whole thing about the understanding this cognitively. And that when you say viduhu, it brings in Shastra. It, of course, the Shastra doesn't come by itself. Shastra brings a friend. Who is the friend that the Shastra brings? Guru. Yeah. So Shastra, Shastra and Guru are a package deal. Just like when you sign up for a tour. You sign up for these tours with 20 other people. And then you say, I want to go here but not here. They will say, no, not an option. Everybody else is wanting to go, you are going. You have an option, you need not get off the bus. You stay in the bus, but we are going to this place. So it's like this. Whether you like it or not, the teacher comes along with the Shastra. The teacher is the official interpreter, the interloper between, the jiva, the ignorant jiva, and the Shastra. Why do you need somebody who is the mediator? Why cannot I study apne aap? I can, do that. I have told you this before. If you ever see a book in a shop called DIY Vedanta. What is DIY? Do it yourself. Do not buy it. Report the book. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a fraudulent book. If there is one thing you cannot do it yourself, it is Vedanta. You must not. And Adi Shankara in the Bhashya for the Mundaka Upanishad puts a very nice caveat. Shastrajñopi, Shastrajñopi sanna. Even if one person is a Shastrajña, means expert in the Veda. Shastram janati, but not janati fully, but just knows what all it can repeat it. Expert in repeating the Vedas. Shastrajñopi swatantriyena brahmanveshanam na kuryat. Please don't do brahmanveshanam, anveshanam, enquiry, brahma into Brahman all by yourself, even though you know Sanskrit and you have studied a few things here and there. Please do not do this. It is to your own peril. Because why? It's not that some, heavy-handed hierarchy and some chosen few as the interpreters. That's not the point. The point is that you come in your own way, your own infrastructure of myself as limited person. If the limited person is looking into the limitless, they will not see the limitless. They will only see limitations. Like the person who was given this big old manuscript of all the Upanishads. And he opened it. First he wanted to say, wow, this is so wonderful. But then he saw all the places where the worms had eaten and, bored holes. And he could not get past that. You see? This is one way in which one's own infrastructure, that obsessive compulsive personality, came in the way of even appreciating what was inside this. Appreciating the wonder of this gift, these ancient manuscripts, rescued from the mouths of baby goats of ancient times, Otherwise they would have eaten, many books were eaten by the goats, well assimilated. Yes? Yeah. And that's the whole thing. And so here they don't see how wonderfully kept it is. Yet, yes, it has a few holes, but that does not detract from its glory. And then similarly, the person who feels sad is told, Atma is Satchidananda, Atma is Ananda. What is that person going to do? Yeah, and turn the page. The person who is feeling limited is told, you are Amrita, limitless, you are deathless, you are immortal. Yeah, right. Turns the page. The person who is, embroiled in all kinds of issues and unable to extricate herself or himself is told, Asango hi ayam purusha. This purusha is totally unafflicted and uninvolved with everything. Yeah, go tell it to somebody else. And then you get bored and put the book away. So therefore, the Shastra includes Guru. Guru includes what? Classes. Classes includes my ability to come to the classes. Ability includes will. my free will to plonk myself in front of the class. Now, even though online is very easy, still you have to turn on the computer, still you have to, you have to make certain choices. So all those choices are included, and those choices, interestingly, can be part of the prarabdha karma from the previous life. Guru upasadanam, approaching the Guru, having the Guru. And so that the punya doesn't run out, because I don't know how long I'm going to have the Guru. Maybe 5 days, maybe 6 days, who knows how much the punya is there. So therefore I become prayerful so that, that continues until the knowledge is completely gained. This, the oneness with the teacher and the teaching and the material that is used to give the teaching, the Shastra, continues. This is what it is, because so many things come in the way. I don't have problem with the teacher, but I don't like other people who are attending the class. One problem. Therefore, I will not go. So many problems like this. And so therefore, viduhu, by that one word, all these things are brought in. My mumukshutvam, my desire to learn, my jignasutvam, my desire to be free, desire to learn, my seeking someone who knows, my sticking to a certain program of studies, without, the ahankara coming and wreaking havoc on my pursuit, my ability to persevere in this knowledge, all that is included. And then only one becomes, ye viduhu, the ones who know. That's how those who know. Those who know were not born into this knowledge. Those who know went to their teachers, who learned from their teachers, who learned from their teachers. That's why we have parampara. That's why we have a lineage. That's why the lineage makes this knowledge very safe, because the teacher is not teaching something from the head. The teacher is teaching exactly how the teacher was himself or herself taught. This is something we have to understand. So, ye viduhu brings in the whole lineage, brings in one's own will, and brings in the possibility that, yes, I too can get this. If they got it, I can also get this. Because this is not something where, this is not a cult, where the teacher says, everyone else, I am God. Okay, but you are not, and you will never be. Actually, the message is atatvamasi, you are not that. But those kinds of, groups are many. There are many of that. And surprisingly, they even have large followings. And here, when we say, you are Bhagavan, hardly anyone will come to listen, Even in Adi Shankara's time, you see 4 students around him. Dakshinamurti also had 4 students. I don't know why. The groups, the spiritual and religious groups that put all the people down, they are very well populated. For example, the religion that says you are all sinners. That is the premises of every talk, every discourse. Oh, ye sinners. Everybody will go, because it reiterates and buttresses what the ahankara is already feeling. Oh, you sinners, you are horrible people. Yes, yes, yes. You need to be saved. Yeah, because that is the weakness. That's the vulnerability. Everybody feels adrift in the sea of samsara. And then that's how everyone gets caught in the net and feels like a fish out of water. This is what the whole problem is. So such groups will have lot of, what are they called? Groupies. Groupies? Groupies? Followers? Yeah. They'll have lot of groupies. But this is not a group. In fact, even if we study in a group, the pursuit is highly individual. And individually one has the blessing of being exposed to this teaching. So, ye viduhu means if they know, then I can definitely know. In fact, there is no teacher, no student, nothing. Yeah, it's easy for you to say, sitting here, you can say there is no student, no teacher. No, there isn't. In fact, the Shishya-Guru duality is the last frontier. Yeah. It's the very last frontier. In fact, we create this duality on purpose. In fact, it subsumes all the other dualities that one has in one's life. Jiva Jiva Bheda, Jiva Ishvara Bheda, and then what? Jiva Jagat Bheda, Jagat Ishvara Bheda, Jiva Jagat Bheda, everything. All these differences, Bheda means differences. All these differences between one individual and another, Jiva Jiva Bheda. The differences between oneself and the things in the Jagat, Jiva Jagat Bheda. Difference between oneself and the cause of the universe, Bhagavan, Ishvara, God. Another difference, Jiva Ishvarayoho Bhedaha. So all these Bhedas are already there. The one who comes to the class is full of these differences. Sees the difference between everything all the time. And these differences have to be blown away like the cobwebs in the mind. Have to be blown away. And Vedanta is all about paradoxes that work very well. And so how to blow away these? You create a new category. Shishya and Guru. And in a way it is healthy because all the differences are subsumed in this one difference. I only have to enact this one difference in order to even throw this away. Ishvaro Gururatme Meti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. I bow to that all-pervasive Dakshinamurti who is who is pervading the whole universe like even space. Ishvaro Guruhu Ishvaraha Guruhu Atma iti Murti Bheda Vibhagine, the one who is split. That truth, that essence of everything that is split into Ishvara, Guru and Self. But really speaking, in his essential nature, he is like space without any divisions. Divisionless Atma. So therefore, so this is, what's that? Striding two levels at the same time. The Vyavaharika level of the day-to-day transactions. Just because one has attended a few classes, one does on the level of transaction, one doesn't say, yo guru, what's up chap? You don't do that, The achara is important, everything is in place. The differences will always be there on the Vyavaharika level. And like we saw on Sunday, these are not the differences that will go away. The difference between Shishya and Guru is not like rope snake, it is more like pot clay. Yeah. Differences persist, but they are not there. This is the beauty of it. You can enjoy the non-difference while enacting the difference. You do namaskara to the Guru while doing namaskara to Atma. That Atma that you are, your own Atma, you are doing namaskara to, that Bhagavan which you are doing namaskara to, that the one who is doing namaskara is all one. You enjoy that. It's beautiful. And so, therefore, this Viduhu brings in everything, just one word, brings in the whole gamut of what it requires to gain this knowledge. That very Shraddha that brings in the teacher, that Shraddha which is kept, maintained throughout. That Shraddha, everything, and all the other things, Titiksha, Mumuksha, from Mumuksha to Titiksha, all the desire to learn, Jignasa, everything is there. All this fructifies into this knowledge which uncovers this Purusha which was previously occluded by one's own infrastructure of skyscraper of Ragadveshas. Yeah. And when the skyscraper comes, everything is blocked, correct? The view is blocked. Yeah. The skyscraper is actually made of a house of cards. Domino effect. You just prick the ahankara, everything comes tumbling down. Yeah. So that's why the Guru comes with a pin and deflates this ahankara so that you can have darshan of Bhagavan. That's what it is. In Guru Stotram, the Guru comes with a scalpel. Yeah. Ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri Gurave Namaha. Unto that Guru my namaskars. What kind of a Guru is this? The one that has come wielding a special ointment and a scalpel to apply the ointment into eyes that could not see, that could see only dimly because of the cataract of kartritvam, bhoktritvam. What else? Cataract of raga, dvesha, cataract of all kinds of notions. The cataract was removed. That's why the Guru is a doctor. Yeah, Guru is a doctor, an all-round doctor, You can say, what is that, not any specialist of any particular thing, the specialist of spiriting away of ignorance. That is the specialty, if the specialty is there. So therefore, this is what is called. Even Bhagavan is called doctor. Prathamo Daivyo Bhishak. In Sri Rudram it comes. Yeah. Prathamo Bhishak. Bhishak means doctor. This is the doctor. Because samsara is a roga. Roga means it's a disease. For samsara disease, you have to go to a samsara doctor. And the samsara doctor, the one who delivers you out of the mad notion that I am a samsari, is the Guru. That's what it is. In Washington DC, I know a person, who is a baby's doctor, gynecologist and pediatrician. And once, he's very learned in a lot of shastras and everything. And once he was introducing me to give some talk somewhere, some seminar or something they had. So then he introduced me, and then when I took the mic, I said that we have a lot in common, he and I. He delivers people into samsara. And what we try to do is deliver them out of samsara. So like that, this is a different kind of, pediatrics for the inner children, the doctor for the inner children. So that delivers the inner children, to integrate into the adults, so that there is just one person left, who is that one person? Angushta matra purusha madhye atmani tishtati ishanah bhuta bhavyasya. This is what it is. And so these three lines summarize what the whole thing is. And then the third line, which we are yet to do, talks about how to do this. Very interesting and also very confusing. That's why I left it for the end. So, Hrida Manisha Manasa Abhikliptaha. Can't even pronounce Abhikliptaha. Forget, knowing what is the meaning of these things. Hrida Manisha. Hrida Manisha Manasa Abhikliptaha. Hrida means by all third case. We'll just see the meaning first of the words. Hrida, by the heart. Manisha, through the buddhi, through the one's own wisdom. Manasa, through the mind. Through the mind. So this is something very interesting, because there are two kinds of interpretations possible. One is, as I said, how to get this knowledge. Certain points are given, and that itself is subject to some confusion that we will see. And the other one has some similarities with what is going to come in chapter 4. So, if you look at chapter 4, verse 17, what do you see? Last two lines. Same thing, exactly the same. Exactly the same. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. So abhikliptaha means that which is constricted. Abhikliptaha means constricted. One meaning. Constricted meaning this is the explanation. Not just two ways you can look at it. First explanation is how come this Purna Purusha became thumb-sized. And for that we can say, first meaning, Hrida Manasa Manisha Abhikliptaha. It was as though finitized, the infinite was as though made to become finite by the heart, by the mind, by the intellect, meaning by the Antahkarana. Yeah, the Antahkarana in each being is truncated, is small, and therefore the Purusha also assumes a small, non-threatening size. Abhikliptaha also means not just constricted. I don't know what else, what other word we can use. It's a kind of a sense of see, kliptaha means enveloping as well. Not just constricted, but enveloping. So enveloping the heart, the mind, and the imagination, manasa, not exactly imagination, but the ability to visualize all this, because it envelops that, and it's the very truth of that Angushtha Purusha is seen as sizeless. The second meaning is this. Like, for example, if we say the mind has a thought. And what is the thought of? Let us say flower. Correct? So the mind right now is what? Abhikliptaha. Is enveloping. The flower is abhikliptaha by the mind. The mind is enveloping the flower. And when the mind envelops the flower, what happens? The flower thought occurs in the mind, correct? And so the mind goes and envelops the flower. It becomes what is called vritti vyapti. The whole mind has taken the form of a flower, correct? Yeah. And then what? Flower gone. Now what came after flower? Pot. Pot came. The mind is no longer stuck on the flower. Now the mind becomes completely present with the pot, and the whole mind, as it were, bends over backward to envelop the pot and then take the form of the pot. Previously it saw what? Flower. And now it saw pot. Now it will see flower pot. So it does the requisite changes in order to be able to take the form of the very thing that it is seeing. Now this is very interesting, because in this cognition there are two things. The cognition of the flower, correct? And then what else cognition is there?
Knower of the flower?
Huh?
The knower of the flower?
Eye.
Self-cognition.
Eye cognition. So there is the eye cognition, the knower of the flower, and the flower itself, So there is, in other words, the object cognition and the subject cognition hidden in each thought. In each thought there is an object cognition. Even if the object pertains to the subject, like I am hungry, it's still an object, correct? So the object cognition and the subject cognition abide together, correct? The object cognition keeps changing. Flower, comma, pot, comma, flower pot, a million flower pots. So many things, it can keep changing. Glasses, computer, tree, house. What about the eye thought?
No.
Stays. So this abhikliptaha, this mind and heart and the everything that is as though given to the variable, to knowing the variables, All these karanas, upakaranas, these karanas means these instruments like the mind, the eyes, all these pramanas that I have, the mind that I have, is given to knowing and being completely dedicated to the variables. In and through these variables, the invariable hides. Yeah, the sizeless, timeless, invariable hides. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. There also same amritatvam. Here also amritaha bhavanti. So hrida manisha manasa abhikliptaha. So the surface meaning is that which has been as though cut to size because of the individualization by the heart, mind, etc. Another meaning is in and through this abhikliptofied mind and heart, the sizeless Purusha right there is being understood. Ye viduhu, the one who knows the invariable through and in all the variables. That to cognize the variable, the presence of the invariable has to be there. Without the invariable, the variable cannot be cognized. Pot cannot cognize flower. So that consciousness, which is there in and through all the variables, unchanging through the constrictions of the mind, the heart, the buddhi, everything, that is the indweller. And so the angushtha is as though, really. Now it is the sizeless, cognition, that which is the truth of every cognition, the content of the cognition. That alone is the subject because of which everything else is cognized. Ye viduhu, once I know this, I don't have to remove the upadhi. I don't have to stop having thoughts. Thank God. Otherwise you just sit like this, Or you keep going like this, no thought, no thought. And then that becomes a thought. That I shouldn't have a thought becomes a thought. Just like you said, no desires, that I shouldn't have a desire becomes a desire. Ayyo Rama, this is what the whole thing is. So, ye viduhu amritaha te bhavanti. I thought I will do 2-3 verses, but next time. So, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Questions? Yes.
It's not a question, but I was hearing teaching today what Pujya Swamiji was saying in one of the nights that we were listening. I was hearing this concept he talked about.